Can you believe this? Magnus Carlsen scored 99% accuracy in a freestyle chess game. I mean, this guy is extraterrestrial and from another planet. This game has been played in Freestyle Chess Grand Slam in Weisenhaus 2025, and Magnus Carlsen's opponent in this game is Nodirbek Abdusattorov, a very, very strong chess player from Uzbekistan. Time control for this game is standard time control. Each player has 90 minutes for the whole game and 30 seconds per each move. Magnus Carlsen has the white pieces, as you can see, this is a Fischer Random chess position. Pieces are randomly placed on the first and on the 8th rank. And especially Magnus Carlsen wants to prove his power in chess in this kind of chess, because there is no memorizations, there is no theories, and you're going to play on your own right out of the beginning of the game. And Carlsen started this game with f4. And right from the first move, you have a very, very big threat. You want to take on a7 and you want to capture this rook. And if your opponent is not careful, plays something like d5, he wants to control the center, you're just going to take on a7, a pawn and an exchange for free. This is the beauty of Fischer Random chess. So your opponent should be very careful. Many players, in response to this move in this tournament, like Hikaru Nakamura, Gukesh, and others, played knight to b6 to defend this threat. But Abdusattorov says, I'm going to attack like you, f5. Carlsen take on a7, Abdusattorov takes on a2, this rook is hanging, and Magnus Carlsen decides to break the symmetry in the third move. He plays e4 and rising the tension in the center. What are you going to do? I'm going to take control over the center of the position. And this is the critical position of the game. Can you believe it? In the third move of the game, we have the critical position of the game. This is very, very strange. And Abdusattorov should play the best move in this position. Otherwise, he's going to end up in a bad position. Abdusattorov in the game played bishop takes b1. A wrong decision. He should have taken on e4. But basically, he couldn't figure it out what is the difference between bishop takes b1, king takes b1, then taking on e4, or first taking on e4. What's the big difference? I'm just going to take the rook and then take on e4. But here, there is a big difference. He took king takes and f takes e4. He was probably counting on Carlsen taking on e4, but Carlsen plays pawn to g3. And the beauty of this position is black cannot play d5. If he plays d5, he can have problems on the light square, especially with c4, increasing the tension on the light color squares. Squares that we have a bishop, but our opponent doesn't have that bishop. If he's going to play e6, we are going to take on e5, and then bishop to g4 check. What about this check? How are you going to defend it? If you play knight d7, bishop takes b8, game over. If he plays knight d6, d3, look at the light color squares. This is going to be terrible. Rook takes e6 is mating 4. Black is going to be checkmated in 14 moves in a top level chess game. Of course, Abdusattorov doesn't play like this, and he just played c6 and accept a bad, not c5. He played c6 and accepts a bad position. But what was the difference? If he first took an on e4, then g3 is out of question, because you can play d5 and there is no c4, there is no d3, because this bishop is defending the light squares. And I have a question for Abdusattorov. Why do you take on b1 when you are not forced? You can take on b1 whenever you want, like what Magnus Carlsen done in this game. He never took on b8 until he was forced to take, because this rook is not going to run away. Of course, if your opponent plays knight b3, then you are going to take it. But when it cannot run away, why you are going to take it? And this mistake, I guess, cost Abdusattorov a game, because after c6, queen takes e4, and this queen is coming into the game. And look at the black pieces. Look at the black pieces. They are not into the game. This is the big risk in a chess 960. If you play first 5 moves wrong, then you're going to end up in a very bad position. g6, okay, he wants to activate his queen, but we are playing knight d3. If you play d5 in this position, then what's going to happen is that you have very big weaknesses on the e line. So Abdusattorov didn't play that, and he played bishop b6. He's forcing Carlsen to take the rook. Of course, I'm going to take it now. And after take back, I'm going to develop another knight. Knights are dim on the corner of the game, so you need to activate them. You need to bring them to the game. So knight b3 happened, and now it's very, very hard for Abdusattorov to come up with ideas because his pieces are very, very limited. He played knight c7. Of course, this knight should come to the game, but now queen b4, another threat. He's playing for initiative. And how do you going to defend it? If you play bishop a7, you lose another tempo. Knight coming to c4, bishop coming to f3, and look at this poor king. And look at the queen on h8, how it can come to the game. Of course, you can bring it to f6, but what next? You can bring it to g7, but what next? What is going to do? He doesn't play it like this, and he took on e3, and d takes e3. A very, very, very interesting decision. If you cannot take back with rook because knight d5 is coming. So d takes e3 is almost forced, not so much interesting, of course. And now queen to a5. Queen to a5, and now the black problem is his king, first of all. And secondly, his second problem is that his pieces are not active and they don't have place to go. He plays e5, he wants to activate his pieces, but Carlsen plays bishop f3. And with bishop f3, he has a threat. He wants to take on d5. For example, if you take on f4, bishop takes d5. And if you take back, then knight d4 is a very, very strong move. Knight b5 coming and checkmate ideas. If you play queen f6, knight b5, you cannot defend the checkmate. Queen c7 check, and after here, queen c5, knight c7 is game over. So this is a very, very big risk. So he plays e4, but now after e4, bishop g2, and now once again you have the problem with your pieces. Queen to g7, and here c4. Black's only active piece is going to be limited and restricted once again. Knight to f6, and look at this move by the king of the game. He played with his king. King to c2. This is a proud walk. This is a proud walk by Carlsen. It basically says you are not going to do anything. You are not able to do anything, and I will pick king c2, rook a1, and I'm going to checkmate you. There is nothing that you can do. You might ask, why not d5? Because if you play d5, then there is rook a1. There is rook a1, and basically it's checkmate. If you take on c4, knight c5, I don't know what to do. Knight 6 to d7. Okay, if knight d6, for example, knight takes e6. If you play rook takes e6, queen d8, checkmate, for example. There are many threats, many threats. Queen coming to a8 check with queen takes b7 ideas. It's game over. So black plays queen f7. He wants to attack this one, but now simply bishop retreats to f1. He wants to just hit. The mission is done on g2 and on this diagonal. It limited black's activity with forcing him to push pawn to e4, and now white's only weakness is c4 pawn, and he's going to defend it. I'm wondering, was king c3 move? Yeah, queen c3 was also possible. King c3, I mean. It's strange. Bishop f1, d6, and rook a1. The heavy pieces are coming. Knight to d7, and here knight to d4. Black cannot do anything. Plays b4. You might ask, why not knight d3? Because I'm just going to take it. If you take back, I'm going to give you a check, and then I'm going to give you another check. And if you come here, wow, rook b7 takes queen a5. What a beautiful finish to this game. But Abdusattorov played knight back to e6, b5, break open the queen side, of course, which the king is there, and now queen b6, a beautiful move. He wants to play rook takes a6, and after knight b4 check, he plays king d2, and it's over. If you take on c4, I can take this, I can take this, so you cannot take on c4. If you play queen e7, for example, I will take on b5, just simply. Still, you cannot do anything. I mean, I can checkmate you whenever I want. Queen c7, queen check, here b6, still you cannot do anything. It's somehow humiliating. I mean, for me, it's like that. Rook c1 check, rook c7 check, and it's game over. So after king d2, Nodirbek Abdusattorov resigned, and now he should win against Carlsen with the white pieces. Otherwise, he's eliminated from this tournament. What a performance by Magnus Carlsen, and what a beautiful chess game. In chess 960, it's very hard to have a 99% accuracy. I hope you enjoyed this video. If this is the case, please like the video and subscribe to the channel. Share it with your friends. Write down your thoughts in the comments, and enjoy chess and life.